Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the SportsHub. I am Will Haroldson, and alongside me, as always, is my partner, Ashton Parker. We have a lot to discuss today, including the WIAC regular season champion Pointers men's hockey team, the Lady Pointers' huge win of UW Eau Claire, and the Super Bowl. All of this when we come back. With last weekend's sweep, the Pointers men's hockey team have won the WIAC regular season for the 15th time in team history. To the victor go the spoils, and in this case, the spoils are a first-round bye and home advantage in the conference tournament. The Pointers do have one final regular season game, which is a rescheduled game against Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota this Wednesday. So, Ashton, the Pointers did what we said they had to do. They won the regular season and now have home ice throughout the conference tournament. How confident are you that the Pointers will find a way to win the conference tournament as well?
I am incredibly confident because we do have that home ice advantage and the fact that no one else is really on our level in the WIAC at least. You know, I think the team that's, in second place in the WIAC right now, if I'm correct, that's the UW Superior. And, as we've shown, we've been able to beat them pretty good both times. So I feel like we shouldn't really worry that much as long as no catastrophic incidents happen, because of course every game is a new game. Any team can win any given day, no matter how bad a team. Anybody can have an off day, anybody can have a really good day. But I feel like in this case we don't really have to worry that much in terms of just how really have to worry. There's not really a team that's close to us.
Right, and early in the season, there was a few losses the Pointers had that they were really before they began to define themselves, I want to say.
Very true.
Because there was really this point early in the season where they were about 5-4-1 or something like that.
Yeah, it was.
They weren't the team they are now, where they know their identity, they score goals, they play really good defense, they shut down teams when they're in the power play with their penalty kills, and they just pummel teams into submission in that second period. It's like they're an NHL team. The last two games they played Northland College in Ashland, and they put up 5 goals in both second periods in both the games they played. They've just been unstoppable in that, and it's really, I don't want to say it's a time where they get that first period and they're like, okay, now we have to start playing. Is that something you noticed, where it's like that first intermission allows them to kind of analyze the team that they're playing and then come out?
Yeah, no, I think that is something I did notice. I was at a bit of a watch party for the UWSP game on Friday, and that's something we noticed is that after the first intermission, most of the time, they take that intermission, they figure out what their opponent does, and they figure out how to counter it, and their opponent can't do anything about it. A good example of this was when they played, I think this was 2 weeks ago on Friday, they played against UW Stout. After the first intermission, it was 2-0. Came back, scored 4 goals in the second period. I think that's a perfect example of how well this team goes into the intermission and just how dominant they come back.
Right, and it's one of those times where you just lay everything on the floor. You say, okay, we need to be better at this, we need to be better at that, and then they come out and they
do it, and they're better at that.
And they do that, and they're better. But to your point, they're really, and like you said, anything can happen. Any team can beat anybody on any given day. But if the Pointers come out and play their best hockey, I find it hard to believe that somebody's going to come up here to Stevens Point and KB Willett Arena and knock them off. It's just, there's good teams, but when Stevens Point's playing at their best, when Wagner's in the net and he's not giving anything up, they showed they're the best. Exactly. They rattled off 7 straight wins to win the WIAC, and in dominant fashion. Not one of them was, other than one overtime win, not one of them was really a close game.
Exactly, and I feel like this is more of a case of, or this tournament at least, that this is more of a case that they use this to get ready for the NCAA tournament, which is way more important in their eyes, I feel like, and it's going to be a lot harder, but I feel like they have a really good chance of making some noise.
And you don't want to sleepwalk your way into it.
That's fair.
But also, one thing I want to bring up to you is with hockey conference tournaments, there's not as many teams as there are in basketball.
Yeah.
So certain teams, the 1 seed and the 2 seed, both get buys into the semifinals. So we got the first round is coming this weekend, and the Pointers play next weekend. Is there a benefit? Obviously, there's a benefit because you get the rest. But is there a drawback on having that long of a break from actual play?
No, I don't think so, honestly. I think the rest is a good thing. I think the fact that that's something they want to strive for, is to be the best, and they have that, and they just use the rest period to get ready for their next opponent and make sure just as good as ever for that.
And also, I want to say, like, the chances of the Pointers getting a 1 seed with them winning the WIAC regular season has gone up exponentially. But do you think if they win the conference tournament, they're a shoo-in?
Yeah,
they're a shoo-in.
Definitely. Yeah, they're
guaranteed.
guaranteed.
They have to be. And at the NCAA tournament time, this would be a chance for the Pointers to really defend their national champion because obviously last season was a shortened season, and technically the Pointers are still the reigning national champions, ranked number 10 in the polls today.
Yep.
So they're definitely a confident team going into this. I would have to agree. I think we don't want to be biased, but really looking at the rest of the WIAC and what the Pointers have been able to turn on the rest of this season, you really don't see a team competing with them right now.
If viewers are coming in here to a channel called SPTV and us not being just a little biased about UWSP sports, I don't know what's going on.
That's true. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss the Lady Pointers basketball team, so don't go away because we'll be right back. Pointers pulled off a massive upset on senior night, taking out the then 18th ranked UW Eau Claire Blue Golds 69-55. Lady Pointers had a really balanced game, having 3 players go for 15 plus points in that game. Lady Pointers now have a chance to continue this momentum when they head up to River Falls to take on the Falcons in the regular season finale. So Ashton, you were at the game on Saturday. What was the overall perception of the team that you gathered? Are they ready for a run at the postseason?
I think that tournament, for the postseason tournament, but I think the game was really, I'm not going to say surprising because I had a feeling that the Pointers have been able to do this all season. It's just that I think it's interesting that they haven't been doing the greatest this season. They've been an okay team, but in terms of conference play, they really haven't had anything. I think before going into it, they were 10-9 with a 3-7 conference record, so they weren't the greatest. But I feel like with this win, they finally figured out what they are. I figured it. We were talking about team identity with the men's hockey team and how at the beginning of the season, they weren't the greatest, but as soon as they found out their identity, they've been on just an absolute tear throughout the season. I have a feeling the Lady Pointers found that, but in this case, it's a little too late. And as you said, the regular season finale is coming just this week. So I think this next game is really going to determine how they're going to do in the postseason. If they do really well against River Falls, I think they have a really good shot at making a decent run. If they don't do as well at River Falls against Eau Claire, then I think they still have the chance to make noise. However, I think that chance is a little less, given how the season's going.
And ultimately, for them to make the NCAA tournament, they have to win. They have to win the conference tournament. And this team, to me, has one of those feels of one of those team that they're not really blowing anybody out of the water in the regular season. They kind of go in a few games above 500, but once they get to that end of the regular season, they start to figure things out and they become pretty dangerous. So regardless of whether or not they win it all, win the conference tournament, there'll definitely be one of the tougher outs that one of these higher seed teams will have to play. I mean, they just showed Eau Claire that they may be an under 500 conference team, but they can still take out one of the top dogs.
I would say that, like you said, I was at the game, and it really was impressive The entire game, they had a lead, and they never gave it up. Eau Claire never had a lead that game. And they just did it with suffocating defense and just making some really great shots. Had some really nice cuts going into the basket. Didn't force anything. And that's the important part, is that when you try to force baskets, that's when you start to lose it in a lot of cases. So having forcing, so the fact that they didn't force was incredibly important.
It shows strength into knowing that, okay, this is not a high percentage shot. I'm going to pass it and have someone else lead to another shot.
Yeah.
But I think something you and I can both agree on is this team really has struggled with consistency.
Yes.
They've gone from starting out 4-1 to then going 4-5 to then going 9-5 to then going 9-9 and so on and so forth.
It's been an increment of 4.
So it's been a struggle because, like you said, they haven't been able to find their identity. But if with a chance to really, if they can go up to River Falls and pull out I want to say it'll probably be an upset win because they haven't been able to win anything on the road.
Yeah.
They'll improve to 12-9.
12-9.
And
not bad.
Not bad.
Going in with momentum, really big thing right there.
And you got to go into the conference tournament thinking, you got to have the mindset going in that you're going to win it. You can't go in and say, oh, maybe we can win it and go to the NCAA tournament. They have to, right now, they have to play this River Falls game like it's their Super Bowl. They gotta win. This is a must-win situation. Must-win situation. It technically isn't, but from a momentum standpoint, it is.
Exactly, and that's why I said that this River Falls game is going to be incredibly important. Earlier, it's the fact that the game is going to determine what their run's going to be like. I feel like, and overall, I think that they've had some really impressive parts on the team all season, but it's that inconsistency that has just been killing them. You said they've been winning and losing in increments of 4 every time, and it's been a little rough. But hopefully now, with that win against Eau Claire, and it was a fantastic win, we can actually get something now with the Lady Pointers.
Absolutely. And it's exciting because they had 2 players go for 17, 1 for 16. So, and the rest of the team, they didn't obviously score that high, but it was a balanced attack. And this is the kind of thing you need if you want to make a late run. You need to have somebody else. You can't have one person scoring because then they'll just double team them and force the other people to score. So seeing multiple people go for more than 10 is gotta be huge for them.
It's great, yeah.
So it's exciting. We'll pay attention to that River Falls game. Hopefully they can pull that one out and get some momentum going into the WIAC regular season finale. We're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we'll talk about how I was right in the Super Bowl and Ashton was wrong about the Super Bowl. So don't go away because we'll be right back.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that. And it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
With Sunday's 23-20 win over the Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Rams are world champions for the first time in franchise history. Despite Cooper Kupp winning the game's MVP, Aaron Donald was most definitely the most important player on this Rams team, just making everything uncomfortable for Joe Burrow all night long. So, I was right, you were wrong. All kidding aside, what was your overall perception of the game? It was a good game.
It was a great game. I think this was a great game to end off a really fantastic playoffs. It was a great playoffs overall. However, I hate that the Rams won. Really thinking about this, I really don't like that the Rams won the game. And the reason why is look at it now. It gives the teams just the thought that draft picks, they might not be as important as people say they are. You had completely opposite sides here with the teams. You had Los Angeles. They gave up so many picks for the Super Bowl.
They gave up every pick.
Exactly. They gave up pretty much every pick for the next few years. And now that they won the Super Bowl, it could possibly give other big market teams it gives the thought that other big market teams can just ship away their draft picks for these high-end talent players that have already proven themselves and can just win games like that. They don't need drafting. And on the other end, you have Cincinnati. Pretty much their team is so young. Joe Burrow, second year. Jamar Chase, rookie. Evan McPherson, rookie. Their team is incredibly young with all of these draft pick prospects that have already been flourishing. And the fact that I'm happy that Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl. I really am. I just hate the way that they did win it. But going back from that, I think a thought of the overall game was that it was good. However, there was a couple of things that did hamper it for me. One of the things was the officiating, like everything in the NFL, because it was not good.
It was atrocious.
It was really bad. And I think a couple of really big plays that maybe it's biased. Maybe I'm biased for picking these out, but you have that holding call that the Bengals had, which I don't know about you, but when I saw the replay, I don't think I saw holding there. And I think there was another one. I'm trying to remember right now.
I'll point out to you, though. I know you favored the Bengals.
Yeah?
Remember the first play of the second half? 12-second drive, one play, 75 yards, touchdown.
All right, then you're going to talk about the teammate that went in there.
The total face mask by the Cincinnati wide receiver.
That's fair.
That play should have been dead. They should have not scored, which they wouldn't have taken the lead.
I'm going to counter you this. Aaron Donald, 4th and 1, and in the first quarter, I think, he was completely offsides. That should have been first down Bengals, and the Rams should not have field position at 50.
The officiating was subject, to say the least.
Was not the greatest.
It wasn't on point, but ultimately, it's one of these games where you don't want the refs to decide it. You got to go out there and win it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
The Rams were able to do that. The stars came out to show in the end. I think that was something Chris Collinsworth talked about at the end of the broadcast, and he was right. Aaron Donald came out, he blew things up. Von Miller came out, he blew things up. But to your point of how the Rams won the Super Bowl, I'm not really a fan either, because Shaq talked about this, that the super teams are rising in sports, where teams can't win with their current franchises, so they quit on them and move and go somewhere else. Players go. That's essentially partly what Matthew Stafford did with the Rams.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he quit on Detroit, but he did spend a lot of time there, but ultimately he did leave, and he did leave on a sour note.
That's what Odell did.
And Odell did the same thing. Von Miller just left Denver, and it was just it was a rebuild.
Jalen Ramsey?
It was a rebuild mid-season, but they didn't rebuild in the normal fashion. They did it with trades and not draft picks. Whereas, like you said, Cincinnati used their draft picks. They did their head coach, who has just had a fantastic year.
Sean McVay?
Not McVay, for the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor had a great year after a horrible year last year.
I think it was so funny that, they had the NBC put up the graphic of, how many games, like what's the coach's regular season record. And Zach Taylor has a 16-32 and I think one record. And it's 3-0 in the postseason. I just think that's really funny personally.
Oh, it's great, and it shows the depth of the AFC and what's to come in this upcoming season. These upcoming seasons, there's a lot of young stars on the rise, and really AFC's a toss-up next year.
Yeah, and also, going what you said earlier, you said the Rams won, that was their first Super Bowl. Not true, they did win one earlier.
The Los Angeles Rams have never won. The St. Louis Rams have won.
I was say, are you counting them as two different franchises, basically? Do you count them as two different entities?
I would think so, because they're in two different market sizes.
I guess.
Los Angeles and St. Louis are a little bit different. Los Angeles obviously is the second largest, and St. Louis is one of the smaller ones.
Greatest show on turf in 2000. I don't know. I personally count them as one thing because you would count. It's weird. Because
it's a weird situation. I think technically it's, if you go, because the Los Angeles Rams existed,
and then
moved to St. Louis, and then moved back to Los Angeles. So I think when you look at the books at it, it says this is the Los Angeles Rams' first ever Super Bowl. But is it the Rams' first ever Super Bowl, No. Is it the Los Angeles Rams' first ever Super Bowl? Yes.
I'll say I think this is like a different situation. This is a different situation than something like Baltimore because, of course, you had the first Cleveland Browns that went to Baltimore, became the Ravens, and then the Cleveland Browns we know now is just a completely different entity.
Right.
But
That used to be the Baltimore
that's
Colts.
just a whole another rambling thing. That's so.
All right.
All
We're
right.
going to finish up with one last thing. So the season's in the books now, but I want us to make a prediction to who we think will be in the Super Bowl next season, who we think the NFL MVP. I'll start. My matchup in the Super Bowl is the Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers, and Josh Allen is the MVP. Your turn. Go.
I can agree with you 100%. Josh Allen's MVP. I don't see how Josh Allen's not MVP. Did you see how he did in this playoffs? Insane stuff. Josh Allen's going to be MVP. Buffalo's making the Super Bowl. Even though, the AFC, super toss-up. However, looking at next year, the NFC is rough. It's not looking the greatest. I feel it's definitely going to be an NFC West team. And as much as it pains me, I think it's going to be Los Angeles. I think it's going to be Rams versus Buffalo. Buffalo's winning.
So you got We got both two. We got one in common, Buffalo, and we got two different teams from the
But they're both from
NFC
NFC
West.
West,
So we got to hear, folks. Make sure you turn back in and see who is right, if either of us are right. That'll do it for another episode of the Sports Hub. Make sure you tune in next week for yet another episode. And while you're at it, why not check out the other stuff we have to offer here at SBTV. Once again, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.